My brother helped my husband cheat, betrayed my trust, and shattered everything I believed in without a trace of guilt or regret. Life has a weird way of revealing who we truly are. If you had told me 2 years ago that I would be where I am now, successful, independent, and separated from my family, I would have laughed in amazement. But here I am, with quite a story to tell. I'm Jillian Matthews. I was a manager at TradeSync Solutions, a mid-sized trading company, at the time. I was competent at my career, but like many women in their late 20s, I was beginning to feel the pressure to settle down. I had a decent career and a small group of close pals. My family consisted of my parents, with whom I was quite close at the time, and my elder brother Marcus, who was 2 years my senior and had always been the family's golden child. Marcus and I had grown up together in suburban Boston, having the usual sibling rivalry but maintaining what I believed was a strong bond. He was usually the outgoing one, the life of the party, whilst I was more concerned with my profession and establishing a secure future. Our parents adored him, and I'd come to accept it as the norm in our household. I met Tom at Jenny's housewarming party, one of those parties when friends of friends get together over cheap wine and grocery cheese. He was charming in that understated way that catches you off guard, with dark brown hair that fell slightly over his eyes and a smile that made everyone feel like they were in on a private joke. We started talking about our mutual love of true crime podcasts, and before I knew it, 3 hours had passed. We swapped numbers that night, and within a week, we were texting every day. Our first date was at a tiny Italian restaurant downtown, where we spoke until the waitstaff began giving us pointed looks about closing time. The second date led to a third, and then a fourth. Before I knew it, we were spending every weekend together. Tom was not like the other males I had dated. He appeared more mature and focused on the future. 6 months into our relationship, we discussed moving in together. He had a solid profession in software sales, and we had similar beliefs about saving money and establishing a secure future. On our 1-year anniversary, Tom took me to the Italian restaurant where we had our first date. He appeared uneasy throughout dinner, fidgeting with his water glass and checking his phone more frequently than normal. Just as our dessert arrived, he went down on one knee beside our table and brought out a little velvet box. My heart was racing so fiercely that I could barely hear myself say yes. The ring was perfect, simple yet elegant, and just what I would have selected for myself. As the other diners applauded and congratulated us, I felt like I was flying on air. The weekend following our engagement, I took Tom to meet my family. I was nervous. My folks might be rather judgmental. Marcus had a way of making people feel either welcome or uncomfortable. There was frequently no in-between for him. Mom opened the door before we even got to the porch. "There's my baby girl," she shouted, grabbing me into a hug before turning to face Tom. "And you must be the man who's stolen our Jillian's heart." Dad and Marcus were in the living room, watching a football game. Marcus jumped up and extended his hand to Tom. "So you're the guy my little sister won't stop talking about," he smiled, giving Tom a solid handshake. "And you must be the infamous Marcus," Tom said calmly. "Jill's told me quite a bit about you too." The afternoon went better than I had imagined. Mom insisted on displaying Tom all of my embarrassing childhood photos, despite my protests, while Dad questioned him about his employment and future plans. To my amazement, Tom and Marcus hit it off right away, especially after they realized they favored the same football team. Finally, Marcus shouted over supper, wrapping his arm around Tom's shoulders. "I've always wanted a brother, but all I got was this troublemaker." He pointed to me with his fork. I put out my tongue at him. "Please, you wouldn't have survived without me covering for you all those times in high school." "True that, sis," he chuckled, and the entire table joined in. The next few months were a blur of wedding plans. Mom took control of the floral arrangements. Dad handled the venue discussion. And Marcus declared himself Tom's unofficial bachelor party coordinator and drinking buddy. They began gathering weekly for beers, and I was overjoyed to see my fiancé and brother become such close friends. The wedding itself was simple yet amazing. We had it in my parents' backyard, with fairy lights hung through the trees and mason jars filled with wildflowers on each table. Our closest friends and family were present, and when Tom kissed me after saying "I do," I was convinced that this was my happily ever after. Following the honeymoon, we moved into Tom's rented apartment, which was a comfortable one-bedroom in a decent neighborhood. That's when we began saving for our own house. We decided to make it a fun competition, with each of us depositing money into different accounts to see who could save the most for the down payment. At first, it was enjoyable. We'd research takeout menus to find the greatest bargains, watch movies at home instead of going out, and prepare lavish dinners together to avoid pricey restaurants. But approximately 3 months in, Tom became restless. "We're turning into an old married couple already," he complained one evening. We're too young to live like hermits. I attempted to remind him of our aims by showing him how much we had already saved. Think about it, in a few years, we could have our own place. Wouldn't that be worth it? He nodded and seemed to comprehend. But then Marcus started inviting him to guys' nights on Fridays. At first, I was concerned. But Marcus told me that he would keep an eye on Tom. I believed him. After all, who better to entrust with my husband than my own brother? And Tom would always return home in a better mood from these adventures, more affectionate and understanding of our savings goals. So I learned to accept it and even look forward to spending some quiet time alone on Friday nights. A year into our marriage, I felt quite pleased about our development. My savings account grew steadily. I had managed to save little over $30,000. I had no idea how much Tom had saved. We'd kept that aspect of our competition a secret, but I hoped he was doing as well as me. Tom revealed the bombshell about his fishing expedition on Thursday evening. Marcus and I are thinking of going fishing this weekend, he remarked during dinner. His friend has a cabin up at Lake Webster. I looked up from my pasta, astonished. This weekend? I thought we could finally spend some time together. You have been working late all week. Come on, Jill, he said, his eyes beaming like a child at Christmas. I haven't gone fishing in months. It'll be fun, just us men, some beers, and maybe catch something to brag about. As if on cue, there was a knock on our door. Marcus burst in. He had a key for emergencies, though I was beginning to wonder the logic of his decision. Little sister? He exclaimed, throwing his arms wide. Please, please, pretty please let your wonderful husband come fishing with me this weekend. He abruptly sank to his knees in front of my chair. I pledged to take good care of him. No wild parties, no crazy stunts, just two guys attempting to outwit some fish. I couldn't help laughing. Get up, stupid. You're 40, not 4. Not until you say yes, he said, giving me his best puppy dog eyes, the ones that had gotten him out of trouble so many times when we were kids. They departed early Saturday morning, packing their car with fishing gear and a cooler full of provisions. I tried to keep myself occupied by cleaning the apartment for the majority of the morning. But by the afternoon, I was climbing the walls out of boredom. That's when I got an idea. Over the last year, Marcus' girlfriend Sarah and I had become close friends. She was intelligent, humorous, and appeared to genuinely enjoy my brother's company. Perhaps she'd like to go shopping. I could justify spending a little portion of my savings on some lady time. I took out my phone and called her number. She picked up on the third ring. Hi, Sarah, it's Jillian. Listen, the lads are out fishing, so I was wondering if you'd want to go shopping or grab some lunch. There was a pause at the other end. Fishing? Marcus is not fishing. He is here with me at my home. We're preparing to drive to my folks' place for the weekend. He is actually in the next room right now. My blood became chilly. In the background, I heard my brother's voice. Who is that, babe? Just my friend Lucy, Sarah said, her voice slightly muffled. I sat there with my phone to my ear, trying to process what I had just learned. My spouse and brother had lied to me. But why? Where was Tom actually going? Sarah, I pleaded. Please do not tell Marcus about this call. I need to figure out something. Just. Please. Of course, she said. Are you all right? I don't know, I'll call you later. I hung up before my voice broke. For a few minutes, I sat on our bed, my mind racing. Tom's laptop was on his desk, humming quietly while in sleep mode. We had always discussed passwords openly, or so I thought. His was simple, his mother's birth date. I used to taunt him about being too predictable and needing more security. Now, the regularity was working in my favor. My hands trembled as I opened the laptop and entered the password. His social media accounts remained signed in, he had always been casual about it. And then I noticed her name, Rebecca. The message thread was vast, dating back months. With each scroll and message I read, I felt my world crumble around me. Can't wait to see you this weekend, baby. Your wife really bought the fishing story? Yeah, my brother-in-law's got my back. He's a legend, haha. She's so clueless. Must be nice having such a trusting wife. They had been meeting virtually every other weekend, at hotels, her apartment, and sometimes on weekend vacations disguised as professional conferences or guys' outings. The amount of detail. They made harsh comments about me. They shared intimate images. It made me physically ill. The worst was yet to come. There was a separate messaging thread for Marcus, my brother, protector, best friend from childhood. She totally bought it again, Tom had wrote only yesterday. Your sister's as gullible as ever. Marcus responded. Jill's always been a bit slow. Remember when we were kids and I convinced her that ice cream grew on trees? She's never gotten any smarter. You're the best wingman ever, bro, Tom commented. Rebecca says hi BTW? Says thanks for covering with Sarah too. Anytime. What are brothers for? Besides, this is way more fun than actually hanging out with my boring sister. Hit me up when you're back. Those strip club girls from last month have been asking about us. The messages went on and on. Prepare for their guys' nights. They provided detailed details of their excursions to strip clubs. Discussions about the many women they had met. Not only had Marcus been lying for Tom's affair, he had been actively partaking in a lifestyle that would destroy Sarah if she discovered it. I read about how they laughed at my meticulous savings plans. How they insulted my desire to acquire a home. They joked that I'd probably wind up paying for everything anyhow, because I was such a sucker. My own brother branded me stupid, naive, and boring. When we were kids, the same brother would chase away bullies. Who had held my hand during Dad's surgery 2 years ago? Who had sobbed during my wedding? The room was spinning. I dashed to the restroom and hurled up, my entire body shivering. When I finally stood up, I returned to the laptop. With painstaking precision, I forwarded every damaging communication to my email account, every terrible prank. Every calculated deception. Every piece of evidence supporting their disloyalty. I spent Saturday night in a bizarre, quiet state of wrath, meticulously researching residences and making phone calls. By Sunday morning, I had acquired a furnished one-bedroom across town, paid the deposit with my savings, and electronically signed the lease. Tom arrived home at 3 p.m., flushed and cheerful. He was carrying a convenience shop bag with a few frozen fish, a pitiful attempt to sustain his story. Hey, babe, he exclaimed pleasantly. You should have seen the ones that got away. I was seated at the kitchen table with my laptop open in front of me. Without saying anything, I turned it toward him. His communication with Rebecca, as well as their arrangements for this weekend's rendezvous, appeared on the screen. Do you know what is funny? I said, my voice unnaturally calm. I actually expected you to at least try to apologize. He straightened up, his face stiffening. Why should I? Do you want to know the truth? Jillian, you've gotten uninteresting. You just worry about conserving money and planning for the future. Where's the fun? Where's the excitement? Even Marcus said what? I cut him off. That I am stupid. Naive? That I am such a sucker for trusting my spouse and brother will be honest with me? Look, he moaned and ran his hand through his hair. Maybe it's for the best. We clearly want different things. You're right, I said again, standing up. I wanted to marry. You wanted convenience. I took my pre-packed luggage from behind the couch. I am filing for divorce. Don't worry about your valuable savings, you can keep them. I doubt there's much left after all those strip clubs and hotel rooms. I spent the afternoon relocating my basic possessions to the new flat. It was small but tidy, with simple furnishings and a view of a little park. My savings, which I had been setting up for our future, would now serve as my fresh start fund. That evening, I traveled to my folks' place for their weekly Sunday supper. I knew Marcus and Sarah would be there, they always were after spending weekends with her folks. Mom was preparing the table when I arrived. Dad sat in his customary armchair. Marcus and Sarah sat on the couch, looking like the ideal pair. There's my girl, Mom said, smiling. We missed you at lunch yesterday. Yeah, about that? I addressed Marcus straight. How did you spend your weekend covering for Tom's affair? The room went completely silent. Marcus's face turned white. What are you talking about? Dad insisted. I took out my phone and began reading the messages aloud. The jokes were nasty. The strip club pays a visit. The precise synchronization of lies. Sarah's expression became increasingly terrified with each syllable. When I finished, she looked at Marcus, tears in her eyes. Is this true? He could not even look at her. Sarah, please. The sound of her palm pressing on his cheek echoed across the room. We're done, she choked out. Everything. We're finished. She grabbed her purse and bolted out the front door, slamming it behind her. After Sarah left, I expected my folks to be horrified. Angry. Marcus left me disappointed. Instead, my mother came out in tears. Not for me, for him. Look what you've done, she exclaimed, hurrying to console Marcus, who sat with his head in his hands. Your brother's relationship is ruined. I looked at her in bewilderment. Are you serious now? Have you heard anything I just said? About how he helped Tom cheat on me? What about the strip clubs? What about the lies? Oh, Jillian. Dad moaned and shook his head. Boys will be boys. You are exaggerating a minor issue. Tom was just blowing off steam, and Marcus was being a nice friend. Friend? A nice friend? I felt like I'd stepped into a strange parallel universe. He helped my spouse cheat on me. He lied to me for months. And now you've destroyed his relationship with Sarah, she said. Was it truly necessary? Couldn't you have done this privately? Marcus raised his head, his eyes red yet dry. Yes, sis. Very classy move. You simply had to bring everyone into this, didn't you? I gazed between them. My mother stroked Marcus' hair as if he were a wounded child. My father gave me the disappointed expression he had developed over the years. And my brother, who had been the victim his entire life, was still playing it. At that point, something inside me broke, or rather, formed. Harder and colder than before. Do you know what? You're correct. I should not have expected any of you to support me. Marcus has always been the golden child, hasn't he? He can do no wrong. So, congratulations. You can have each other. That night, I walked out of my childhood home without looking back. The divorce process was shockingly swift. Tom wanted to take half of my money, claiming they were marital assets. We agreed to save together, he added during mediation, attempting to appear reasonable. It was our joint plan for our future. But even his parents, who had stayed out of the whole issue, advised him to stop it. Don't make yourself look worse than you already do, his mother warned angrily. He withdrew his claim the following day. I heard from mutual friends that Marcus and Tom were still as close as thieves. Marcus had fully embraced the single life again, now that Sarah was no longer holding him back. They frequented every pub and club in town, acting more like college freshmen than mature men in their 30s. Their social media pages were filled with party photos, girl groups, and inebriated exploits. Not that I looked often, but word reached me. It's funny how clarity emerges when everything is stripped away. Without the distractions of a failing marriage or family drama, I could finally concentrate on what I desired. And all I wanted was to succeed. I volunteered for every hard assignment that came through TradeSync Solutions. Other managers avoided them because they were overly complex, risky, or time-consuming. I snatched them all. I worked late and early, devoting every ounce of my energy to making each job extraordinary. My first major achievement was with the Anderson account. Everyone had written this client off as hard to please. I reorganized their whole trading architecture, developed new reporting tools, and raised their first quarter profitability by 47%. The CEO personally called to commend my job. That success led to larger ventures. I created a new risk assessment process, which saved the organization millions in potential losses. I simplified our foreign trading processes, cutting transaction times by 60%. Each success builds on the last. And people began to notice. Jillian, my boss called me in one day. How do you feel about joining the management team? We need someone who shares your vision. The promotion included a corner office and a salary that made my eyes swim. I celebrated by purchasing a sleek black Mercedes. Perhaps not the most practical choice, but I wanted something to remind me of my progress every day. 6 months later, I closed on my dream apartment. A 2-bedroom condominium in the city's most desirable area. The mortgage payments were high, but I could afford them. Every night, I would stand on my balcony, watching the city lights, proud of what I had accomplished on my own. I hadn't spoken to my family in quite some time. There were no birthday calls. No Christmas gatherings. No Sunday dinners. Sometimes I would see their digits on my phone, but I never responded. The wounds remained too raw. The betrayal was too fresh. Then, on a random Tuesday evening, when I was reviewing quarterly estimates in my new home office, the doorbell rang. I was not expecting anyone. And few people knew my new address. Through the surveillance camera, I saw my parents standing there. Looking older and tireder than I remembered. For a second, I pondered not responding. But something in their posture, Mom kept wringing her hands, and Dad's shoulders slumped, I buzzed them up. Jillian, Mom began as soon as I opened the door. You look wonderful. What do you want? My voice was cool and professional, the same tone I used at stressful customer meetings. They exchanged glances before Father spoke. This is about Marcus. We were incorrect about him. Almost anything. They told me how Marcus had slid after Sarah left him. How his friendship with Tom had become toxic, constant partying, drinking, and hooking up with strange women. He began arriving at work hungover and then inebriated. He received 2 formal warnings. One for being inebriated at his desk and another for failing to show up for a crucial customer appointment. He's been fired, Mom replied, her voice breaking. He has awful references. Nobody will hire him. He is now living in his previous room. He has no money and no prospects. What are you expecting me to do about this? I asked, leaning on the kitchen counter. The marble felt cool against my palms, a minor pleasure I had chosen for myself while renovating. Mom's eyes brightened up with hope as she heard my question. Well, sweetheart, we know you're in management now, at such a prestigious company. We were thinking, Dad added, perhaps you might locate a place for him. Something fitting. With a decent wage. It doesn't have to be overly difficult. I couldn't stop myself from laughing. Let me get things straight. You want me to sacrifice my professional reputation, which I created from the beginning, to provide a good job to the brother who betrayed me? The same brother who destroyed my marriage? Jillian, that was 2 years ago, Mom begged. People make mistakes. Mistakes? I straightened up, my voice dead silent. Forgetting to buy milk is a mistake. A mistake is arriving late for dinner. Marcus made a choice. There are several options available. He decided to cover for Tom's affairs. He decided to mock me behind my back. He prioritized his friendship with my cheating ex-husband over his own sister. He's family, Dad insisted, his face flushing. Family forgives. Really? Where was the family loyalty when I needed it? When did I provide you proof of what they had done to me? You sided with him, remember? You're being unreasonable, Mom exclaimed. If you do not help your brother, we will disinherit you. Everything will go to Marcus. I looked around my apartment, admiring the art I'd chosen, the furniture I'd purchased, and the life I'd created without their assistance. Then I laughed again, truly this time. I don't need or want anything from you. I believe it is time for you to depart. I approached the door and held it open. I have an early meeting tomorrow. They tried to argue more, but I just stood there, door open, waiting. Finally, they went, Mom in tears and Dad ranting about ungrateful daughters. As I closed the door behind them, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Through the glass, I observed them enter their ancient Volvo. They had had the same car while I was in college. I thought about Marcus in his boyhood bedroom, possibly nursing another hangover. Waiting for someone else to solve his problems, as they always did. Last I heard, he was doing odd jobs in the neighborhood, mowing lawns, painting fences, and doing whatever it takes to save money for drinks. Tom ultimately got bored of partying with a broke pal and moved on. Karma, as they say, is a patient visitor. I poured myself a bottle of wine, an expensive Bordeaux I'd bought to celebrate my previous successful project. I walked out onto my balcony. The metropolis sprawled before me, its lights glittering like fallen stars. Below, I could see my Mercedes in its assigned parking space, a symbol of what I had accomplished on my own. Some may label me frigid for turning my back on family. But family is more than simply blood. It's all about trust, respect, and loyalty. Those who genuinely love you do not betray, mock, or manipulate you. They stand by you, encourage you, and celebrate your accomplishments. Excluded from my sister's wedding, I went on vacation. When the wedding fell apart, my whole family frantically tried to reach me. You're overreacting. It's just a wedding, my mother said. I was not invited to my own sister's wedding. Instead, I scheduled a trip. Days later, my relatives blew up my phone. I sat there, staring at my screen, reading the message for the 5th time. Hey, just wanted to let you know the guest list is finalized and we had to make some tough cuts. Hope you understand. Love you. Tough cuts. Tough cuts. I wasn't some distant cousin. I wasn't an old family acquaintance whom they hadn't seen in years. I was her brother. And my sister, the same sister I had assisted through every crisis, heartbreak, and moment of self-doubt, had just cut me out as an afterthought. I glanced at the screen, a slow pang of unbelief spreading into my chest. I nearly laughed, because this had to be a mistake. I took up the phone and called my mother. She responded on the second ring, her voice upbeat. Hey sweetheart, what's up? I didn't bother making small talk. I just got a message from Emily. She says the guest list is finalized and, I'm not on it. There was a pause. Just long enough to prove what I had previously suspected. Oh honey, my mother sighed. She always used that voice to make me feel like I was being unreasonable. It's just a wedding. Don't make a big deal out of this. Just a wedding. I felt a hot stinging coil in my stomach. Are you serious? I asked, my voice unusually calm. Mom, I'm her brother. How am I not invited to my own sister's wedding? She produced a tisk sound, as if I were a toddler having a tantrum. It's not personal. They had to keep the guest list small and… Mom! I cut her off. I just saw Emily's Instagram post. She invited 150 people. Silence. Then, a forced chuckle. Well, you know how things are. Weddings are expensive. And maybe they assumed you wouldn't mind skipping this one. I felt like I had been hit in the stomach. Wouldn't mind? I asked. Mom, I've been there for Emily through it all. I helped her relocate twice. When she lost her job, we covered half of her rent. And I was the one who helped her get over her last breakup. But now I'm not good enough to be there on her special day. Oh, stop being dramatic, my mother remarked with a sigh. It's just one day. You're overreacting. I laughed briefly and without humor. Overreacting, right? I could already predict how things would go, I would argue. My mother would shrug me off. Emily would certainly provide a half-hearted apologies later. I'd be expected to forgive and forget. Because that is what I have always done. Not this time. Something within me cracked. If I wasn't worthy of inclusion, then fine, I would not be. I hung up without saying anything and began browsing through my phone. If I wasn't planning to attend Emily's wedding, then I was going to be somewhere much nicer. I was going on a vacation. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. I wasn't the type of guy who got upset over trivial matters. I had previously let a lot slide. Emily had repeatedly forgotten my birthday. She would only call me when she needed something. Our mother always wanted me to be the understanding one. Emily managed to get away with murder. But this was an entirely new level of disdain. I wasn't going to sit around moping while my sister and the rest of the family played happy little wedding without me. If I wasn't significant enough to be featured, then I wasn't significant enough to be present when they needed me. I grabbed my laptop and began looking up flights. If Emily could have the happiest day of her life, then I planned to enjoy the best week of my life. It took less than an hour to plan. I reserved all-inclusive accommodations at a 5-star resort in the Caribbean. Suite with an ocean view, spa services, and access to a private beach. I had always convinced myself that such a trip would be too pricey. Not this time. I wasn't just traveling for a holiday. I was making a statement. When the wedding weekend came around, I was already on a plane, enjoying champagne in first class. I made sure to upload a picture, legs extended out, drink in hand, with this caption. Guess I got cut from the guest list, but I think I'll survive. The reactions were nearly immediate. Some of my cousins sent laughing emojis. My aunt, the only rational member in the family, commented, "Good for you. Should have taken me with you." But what's the best reaction? That came from my mother. She sent me 3 texts in a row. Mom asks, "Where are you?" My mom. "Are you seriously missing your sister's wedding over this?" Mother. "You're being petty." Petty? I wasn't even close to finishing. I responded with a photo of the beach, complete with white sand, crystal blue ocean, and a postcard perfect view. Then I shut off the phone. I wasn't about to let them guilt me. Not this time. For the first time in many years, I was not putting my family first. I was putting myself first. And it felt incredible. By the time I arrived in paradise, I had entirely eliminated any lingering remorse. The moment I walked out of the airport, the warm ocean breeze touched me, bearing the aroma of salt and tropical flowers. A private car was waiting to drive me to the resort. A stylish black SUV with chilled towels and bottled water in the backseat. Yeah. This was far better than a wedding. As we drove down the coast, I reflected on how right I had been to accomplish this. Back home, my family was presumably busy preparing for the big day. My mother was probably making excuses for why I wasn't present. My sister was laughing with her bridesmaids, not giving me a second thought. But I wasn't treated as an afterthought here. Here, I was the priority. My priority. The resort was something out of a fantasy. The lobby has enormous palm trees blooming within. A massive open-air architecture that allowed in the ocean wind. And the kind of service where you were greeted with a cocktail before you checked in. My room? Unreal. Floor-to-ceiling windows and a private balcony and the most gorgeous king-size bed I'd ever seen. I threw down my things, strolled out onto the balcony, and simply took it all in. Then, just to make matters worse, I took a picture of the scenery and shared it with this caption. When one door closes, another one opens, preferably to a beachside suite with unlimited margaritas. I knew it would find its way back to my family, and honestly, I hoped it did. Because for once, they could understand what it was like to be left out. And I was only getting started. The first full day of my trip was simply fantastic. I began the morning with room service, which included fluffy pancakes, fresh fruit, and coffee that was so wonderful it ruined every cup I'd ever tasted. Then I spent the entire day doing precisely what I wanted. No responsibilities. There's no family turmoil. Just me, the ocean, and a timetable focused only on my own enjoyment. By the afternoon, I was lounging on a sunbed by the infinity pool, martini in hand, watching the waves roll in. Every so often, I'd check at my phone, not to check in with my family, but look at the growing amount of responses to my vacation blogs. The comments were gold. Cousin Jake. Bro, where are you even? Aunt Lisa. Okay, now you're just showing off. An old college acquaintance says, dude, invite me next time. Finally, I received a notification that made me smirk. Emily saw your article. Oh, now she was paying attention. I could just imagine her reaction, sitting in the bridal room, sipping inexpensive champagne, scrolling through Instagram only to see me having my best life while she is anxious about her wedding. Good. I leaned back, took another sip of my beverage, and thought, enjoy your special day, sis. I hope it's all you wanted. However, when the sun began to set, something unusual occurred. My phone started to explode. Initially, I ignored it. I figured it was just more people reacting to my photos. But then I noticed these names. Mom. Emily. Cousin Jake. Even Uncle Rob. Call after call. Texts are coming in non-stop. I raised an eyebrow and eventually opened my phone. The first text I saw was from my mother. Mother. Call me, it's an emergency. Is there an emergency? Attending the wedding? I sighed, debating whether I really cared. Jake then sent another message. Jake's reaction. Dude, you are not going to believe what just happened. Oh, now I was curious. I sat up and scrolled through the texts. And I quickly understood that the universe had given me the nicest wedding gift I could have ever hoped for. Because as it turned out, Emily's beautiful wedding had gone up in flames. I scanned through a torrent of messages, my sneer grew with each one. Jake replied, Bro. You dodged a bullet. Mother. Call me right now. This is a family crisis. Emily, please. Where are you? I need you. I stretched out in my lounge chair. I took another drink of my cocktail, and continued scrolling. Then I discovered a message that made me laugh out loud. According to cousin Melissa, the groom simply walked out. I almost choked on my drink. Did the groom leave? Oh, this was better than I could have expected. Curiosity got the best of me, so I eventually texted Jake back. My response? What do you mean he left? Jake. Dude, during the reception, full meltdown. He and Emily had some huge fight and then he just walked out. Straight up left the venue. Jake, again. Oh, and then Uncle Rob and Dad got into a screaming match over who was ruining the family's reputation. Grandma cried. The venue cut the bar early. It's a mess. I leaned back, smirking. My sister had refused to let me attend the wedding, believing that she didn't need me. And now? Suddenly, I was the first person they all ran towards. I could already hear my mother's voice in my brain. You need to fix this, Emily is devastated. Yes, no thanks. I opened the following message. It came from Emily. Emily says, answer your phone. Please, I need you. Oh, suddenly I was significant. I took a deep breath and typed back a single response. Me. Sorry, I'm a little busy enjoying my overreaction. Hope the wedding was fun. And then, I blocked her phone number. I blocked my mother. I also blocked Jake, just in case he got drawn into their guilt trip operation. Then I turned my phone to do not disturb mode, waved over the bartender, and ordered another drink. Because, while my family spiraled, I was in paradise. And for once, I wasn't bothered. The following morning, I awoke to the sound of waves breaking on the shore. The aroma of sea and tropical flowers wafted through my open balcony doors. I stretched and yawned. And for one lovely minute, I almost forgot about the pandemonium at home. Almost. Then I looked at my phone. Even though I blocked the majority of my family, I still had more than 20 missed calls from random numbers. They tried everything to contact me. Several voicemails had slipped through. Despite my better judgment, I pressed play on the first one. Mom's voice, frantic. I don't know what you think you're doing, but this is not the time for one of your tantrums. Your sister is devastated and we need you here. This family needs to stick together right now. I rolled my eyes before deleting it. Next voicemail. Emily is crying. I don't understand why you're doing this. You're my brother. I need you. Please, just call me back. Click. Deleted. The following one had me laughing. Jake whispered as if he were hiding in a closet. Dude, Mom and Aunt Lisa are planning to show up at your apartment when you get back. Just a heads up. Also, Grandma keeps saying the wedding was cursed because you weren't there. It's hilarious. Was that a voicemail? I've saved. I tossed my phone on the bed and stepped out onto the balcony. The sun had just begun to rise, creating a golden glow over the ocean. I took a deep breath, allowing the warmth of it to sink in. Back at home, my family was scrambling to perform damage control. Meanwhile, I was here, sipping espresso while wearing a bathrobe, enjoying the best decision I'd ever made. And the best part? They were now feeling what I had felt when they cut me out. Unwanted. Forgotten. Left out. It was rather poetic, actually. But I wasn't finished yet. I grabbed my phone. I took a photo of my breakfast, which included fluffy pancakes, fresh fruit, and a mimosa that was so brilliant it might blind someone. And posted it with this caption. Starting my day stress-free. Hope everyone back home is doing okay. Then, just for fun, I went through my blocked messages, grinned at all of the missed calls, and ordered another mimosa. I didn't intend to call them back. Allow them to clean up their own mess. I was on vacation. By midday, I was relaxing under a secluded cabana, sipping a tropical drink with an umbrella when my phone vibrated again. This time, the message came from cousin Melissa. Melissa. Okay, I know you're mad. And honestly, you deserve to be. But you have to hear what happened after the wedding. Call me. You're going to love this. I raised an eyebrow. Melissa has always been the only cousin with a brain. If she mentioned that I needed to hear anything, it was probably worth the time. So, despite my better judgment, I called her. She answered the first ring. Oh my God, you're finally answering, she said, unable to contain her joy. Okay, are you sitting down? I gazed about in my shaded cabana, the vast ocean in front of me and the chilled beverage in my palm. Yeah, I think I'm in a good place for whatever this is. Melissa let out a breathless laugh. Okay, after the groom left, Emily had a complete meltdown. And I don't mean a few tears. I mean yelling, wailing, and throwing objects at the wedding party. I smirked. Sounds about right. Melissa continued, her voice brimming with enthusiasm. Everyone was attempting to calm her down. Mom overheard Aunt Lisa suggest that the disaster could have been avoided. If you'd been there? I blinked. Wait, what? Melissa giggled. Yes, she was saying that you've always been the one to mend problems when Emily spirals. That if you were present, you would have talked sense into the groom or handled everything like you normally do. I burst into laughter. So let me get this straight. The same family that barred me from the wedding is now blaming me for not being present to preserve it. Oh, it gets better, Melissa remarked. Mom told Lisa she was acting ridiculous. And then they started fighting, loudly. Then Grandma became involved, saying Emily brought this on herself, because she offended the cosmos by not inviting her brother. I almost choked on my drink. Melissa was cackling now. Grandma lectured Emily in front of everyone, stating, if you had treated your family better, you wouldn't be alone in your wedding dress right now. I leaned back smirking. Wow, that's beautiful. Oh, and then, Melissa said, your mother attempted to contact the groom's family to resolve the situation? His mother just smiled and said, this is your issue now. I had to set down my drink before I spilled it from laughing so hard. So, I said, collecting my breath, where does that leave Emily? Melissa sighed. Still weeping. Still blaming everyone except herself. Last I heard, she was trying to save the wedding with some sort of backup plan. But let's be honest, she's not going to recover from this. I shook my head grinning. You know what the best part is? What? I took a slow sip from my drink. I don't care. Melissa roared with laughter. Honestly, I don't blame you. I just thought you'd appreciate knowing that karma did its job. Oh, I love knowing that, I remarked, smirking. Thanks for the update, Melissa. No problem, she replied. Enjoy your trip, and for the record, you did the right thing. I hung up, more satisfied than I had been in years. They wanted a wedding without me. And now, thanks to their own selfishness, they had a disaster instead. I grabbed up my drink and raised it to the heavens. And I toasted to the best decision I've ever made. Then I turned off my phone and relaxed back in my cabana. Let the beach air sweep away the rest of my shame. For the remainder of the day, I didn't look at my phone. Instead, I scheduled a sunset cruise. Allow the warm breeze to wash over me, and had a 5-star meal by the seaside. My family was still picking up the pieces from Emily's wedding tragedy. I was enjoying the greatest steak I'd ever had. At some point, a notion occurred to me. Perhaps I should feel sorry for her. Then I remembered how she left me out without hesitation. Yes, no. I took a sip from my wine. I took one last shot of the view. And shared it with one caption. Zero regrets. Finally, with a contented smile, I turned off my phone again. Let them stew, I was done being their backup plan. The following morning, I awoke feeling lighter than I have in years. There is no guilt. There will be no tension. There were no last-minute family emergencies that became my job to solve. Just myself and the sound of waves. And an entire day of nothing but rest. I stretched, ordered room service, and, out of curiosity, I turned my phone back on. A big mistake. Within seconds, my notification surged. Mom said, "You need to stop acting like a child and call me." Emily's response. "I can't believe you're doing this to me. You are so selfish. Your mother. This isn't funny." Emily is heartbroken. "Do you even care?" Unknown number, possibly my aunt. "We need to fix this family before it's too late." I groaned and shook my head. It was almost surprising how swiftly they moved from ignoring me to expect me to cure everything. Then, one message struck my attention. Melissa. "Okay, I understand you are ignoring everyone, but please read this. Your mother is trying to gather the family for a discussion when you return. Just a heads up." I almost laughed aloud. Oh, they assumed I would return as if nothing had happened. As if I'd just come up and let their guilt trip me. And pretend the entire thing never occurred. Yeah, not happening. I quickly replied to Melissa. Thanks for the warning, but I won't be there. Melissa says. Wait, what do you mean? Me. I'm extending my trip. They wanted to cut me out? Okay. I'm cutting myself off altogether. I could almost see her reaction. A combination of astonishment and amusement. A few seconds later, she responded. Melissa. Okay, that's iconic. Tell me everything when you get back, whenever that is LOL. I grinned, set down my phone, and grabbed up my laptop. With a few clicks, my trip was officially extended. Another entire week. There's no family. There's no drama. No family discussions. Just me and the water. They never allowed me to have peace. And the best part? They couldn't do anything about it. Before going to the beach, I sent one final text. Me, Mom, and Emily. Oh, so you want me around? Sorry, I'm too busy enjoying my reactions. Have fun cleaning up your own messes. Then, for the last time, I blocked their numbers. I put my phone down. Ordered another drink. Let the sun warm my skin. There is no guilt. There will be no tension. No regrets. Just peace. And it was the best decision I've ever made.